Hey everybody, HMV here, playing more Rimworld, and Albert has asthma. I knock his medicine down to herbal only so he doesn't use up all the good meds on maintenance. And we get a quest to save someone. A 71-year-old guarded by a robot. I think I'll pass. As Hermione sows more rice, I queue up more traps around the workshop doors. And as Hermione finishes that, she gets a psychic soothe for her troubles. And 2 more traps for the final door, and we're all secured. And that's right, you heard me correctly. I said Hermione, and not Hermine. Turns out that Hermine is the only way that's not correct to say her name. I could have said Hermine or Hermione, and I think Hermine sounds bad, so I decided to go with Hermione. As winter is on its way, I don't need the passive coolers anymore. In fact, I figure we're going to be here throughout winter, so I'll need a heater or two. And a vent. Also, we really shouldn't be eating without a table anymore. The room I had planned to be the workshop is now far too large for just a temporary structure, so I decided to make it into a dining room as well. Albert and Hermione plant 1 more crop of rice, which I hope will grow before winter. I put a door in near the kitchen so they don't have as far to walk. Did you see that? Albert just hit on Hermione. He teased her about her punctuality. She already thinks he's lazy. Great job, Al. And regarding moving the base, check the comments, and both Nathan and Carrie in there said that I should pick up and actually move across the countryside, and frankly, I agree with you both. I like the idea of a new place, I like the idea of trying out rivers, and I like the idea of just change in general. So at this point of the video, the plan is to move come spring and spend the winter inside researching, maybe getting swords and bows all set up so that we can travel across the countryside in style. Albert doesn't like the unsightly environment. I have to say I don't either. Also, having the food lying on the dirt floor doesn't seem like a good idea. So I queue up wood floors for the whole complex. I realize that Hermione's the better cook, but Albert's the one doing all the cooking, even though her cooking set at 1 and his is at 2. We'll never get fine meals at this rate, so I knock his cooking down to 3, so he'll do almost anything else before he tries to cook anything. And during the night, we get a raid. 1 dude with a club. I've got that great little panic room, so like a moron, I opt to not use it. I thought that maybe I could kite the guy around with Albert while Hermione pecks away at him with her bow. And that worked out for me about as well as you'd expect. Hermione did land a shot or 2 on the guy, but he still stayed up long enough to take Albert down. Then he came after Hermione. As he charged, she finally landed a takedown shot. I sent her right to save Albert. But then I realized it'd be really nice to get the clothes off that guy before he died. Then I rescued Albert. As Hermione tends to Albert, a transport pod crashes nearby. Sergeant Trigger has 6 hours to live, so we capture... strip him as well, but not before finishing up on Albert. I can't help but wonder if we actually want to capture this guy. Do I really want to work down someone's resistance all winter? Wow, what a combination of fantastic and terrible traits. A great shot, a good fighter, and loves construction. But a creepy breathing misogynist who's psychically hypersensitive? I realized I've not checked the other guy's stats. Chemical fascination, that's an instant no-go. And as funny as it'd be to have a second woman hater in the tribe, Hermione decides to leave Trigger to rot as well. I up her hauling so she'll move the corpses and collect the gear while Albert is incapacitated. And I should mention at some point that we are now on 0.19 stable, so get out there and play this game. It is so fun. Also, the difficulty was medium when I started. I bumped it up to rough because things have been going way too easy for me, and I want some trouble. Okay, I'll never understand this one. You haul a dead body to the dead body pile. Then you whip out a meal and eat it right on the spot. Immediately feel bad that you saw a dead body. And then walk past the table that you could have eaten your meal at as you go back to bed. Great job, Hermione. Albert has asthma. I mentioned this before, but I'm bringing it up again now to point out that 4 previously perfectly good lungs are now rotting away on our dead body pile. The next morning, Hermione cooks up some meals. Her cooking skill is slowly rising, and soon we'll be having fine meals. Then she runs around doing every other task while Albert rests up in the makeshift hospital in our research room. And after she finishes laying down all the floors, right after the sun sets, Albert awakes and decides to go on a food binge. He only eats 2 meals before going to bed in his own room, which for reasons I'm sure were good ones, but I can't remember right now, is back in his actual bedroom. I think I was trying to keep him from getting a mood hit from being disturbed while Hermione walked through the room. His cracks and bruises are healing nicely, however, so he should be up and at him in no time. But before that, we get another animal attack, this time a tortoise. Look at him go. Man, he's really trucking there. I wonder if Hermione can get a full night's sleep before dealing with him. She does. Good old Hermione. She even has an early morning sit down to compose herself. But eventually she actually has to take action. Okay, technically it's a moving target, but come on. Okay, that's better. Right over its head. And again, just missing. As the 4th shot misses, I check her shooting skill. 4. No wonder. But it's getting closer to 5 with every shot. She does get to level 5, but that doesn't seem to actually help her accuracy. So I'm going to move her behind that second trap. Hopefully at least they will take the tortoise out. And the second trap does the poor guy in. Hermione took 13 shots and hit the tortoise a grand total of 0 times. I set it to be hunted and take Hermione off the alert. She opts to not kill it immediately, and I for one don't mind. The meat will last longer if you don't kill it right away. It may be cruel, but I didn't ask him to attack us. Hermione takes a well-deserved breakfast and cooks the day's meals. And we get a peace talks quest. It's not too far away, but again, I don't really want to split my limited resources up, especially when one of them is bedridden. I would like to get Ted O'Mella on my side, or at least neutral though, so we don't get attacked by an Outlander Union. The day goes by relatively peacefully, and in the late afternoon we get some visitors and a solar flare. Hermione takes care of some tasks that don't need electricity, and I entertain the idea of hunting a Thrumbo for all of half a second. And I trade with Eagle. I buy his medicine and pemmican and sell him all my junk that he can afford. Albert's basically healed, so I equip him with a new steel club and put him to work hauling the pemmican, which is hardy but will deteriorate outside given time. And while he's stretching his legs, the biggest thing we've faced so far this series happens. A toxic fallout. And it's now decision time. Do we hole up for the next 20 days in winter and toxic rain, or do we bail and hit the road an entire season before we were planning to? We bail. First, I queue up a quick harvest on everything we can get. Then, I order deconstruction on everything that might give us components. I set their construct and plant cut orders to maximum priority as Albert starts the work. He, of course, goes right back to bed, and Hermione cooks up their last 6 meals, and then deconstructs the stove. Eventually, Albert gets back up and helps for a second. Then he gets breakfast. They finish deconstructing, then reap all the rice. I then have them haul everything to stockpiles. Looking back, it'd probably have been better to just throw a big stockpile over everything that's already on the ground so we could get away quicker. I decide to also bring my traps. Why not, if I can carry them? And in what may be the best decision of the game for me so far, I opt to let them sleep the night before packing it up in the morning. Why was that such a good decision? Because overnight, 3 alpacas decide to join us in our travels. I tell them to spend the night inside as well. It's even 2 females and a male. Perfect for breeding. I get everybody up at 4 a.m., order the packing of everything worthwhile, and head out. Now I had 3 places I was thinking of going to, and the nearest was the source of the western of the 2 rivers nearby. The second spot is 4.5 days away on another river with some hills. I figure I'll go to the nearest one, and if everything's going okay when I get there, I'll reevaluate if I want to go further. I'll talk about the third spot in a little bit, but for now, we're packing up and heading out. We abandon the toxic hellhole and have a pretty uneventful journey. Albert even gets fully healed. Right before reaching our destination, I pause and assess our moods. Everything seems fine, so I opt to press on. Our second destination is 2.2 days away, but our third destination is 3.8 days away. There's even a fourth destination 4.1 days away. What I like about this fourth destination is how close it is to a neutral faction. That'll make trade much easier. And if we really wanted to stretch it, we have another destination almost 6 days away. But that's looking too far in the future. For now, I'm just going to try spot number 3. We're met on the road, but don't really have anything to trade. We could buy 2 medicines, but I opt to not. We reach the road and our pace quickens. And Albert gets food poisoning right as Hermione gets gut worms. Okay, maybe eating raw rice on the road for days on end wasn't such a hot idea. But our destination's only a day away, so I press on regardless. And welcome to our new home. I really like this map. Huge tracts of fertile soil, a nice big river, and lots of doodads and little fiddly bits to play in. I think Albert and Hermione could have done far worse in their new home. I decide to make their temporary shelter off of the big wall just to their south. And a very temporary shelter it is. I just want the basics. A fire to cook on and a warm enclosed area to sleep. And a horseshoe pin. Always got to have a horseshoe pin. We get everything built with plenty of time left in the day, so I queue up some meals so they can stop eating raw rice. And I set up a quick little indoor stockpile so things won't rot away so fast. Hermione is being inefficient, hauling only 10 rice at a time to cook, so I make her haul a full load of 75 to the stockpile so she cooks faster. And Albert's not happy. Food poisoning has given him intense pain and a ravenous appetite. Well, eat up, buddy. And our first day in the new camp ends as Hermione turns in at a reasonable hour after cooking up all the meals. The next morning, they get up, have breakfast, and get to work. I have Albert build a second small room so they can have separate bedrooms. And a quick bed I decide to give to Hermione as her mood is slightly lower than Albert's. Albert gets the second bed, which Hermione makes for him a bit quicker than I'd expected. It's cold outside, but indoors with the torches in the small rooms, it's a toasty 73 degrees. Instead of hauling those traps, I choose to place 6 of them around the doors. And I immediately see a problem. The cooking spot sits Hermione directly on what's going to be a trap. Also, walking around to that door is inefficient, so I make a new door closer to the action. Then I place a new fire right in front of that door so Hermione doesn't have to walk very far. It's now midwinter, but the temperatures aren't too bad, so I queue up some grow zones. I also queue up to harvest all the nearby berry and heelroot bushes. And I also manually prioritize hauling the perishable goods that are still sitting out in the open. And 2 of our alpacas get the flu. So I set them up with sleeping spots so we can tend to them a bit more easily. A cougar is hunting nearby. Luckily, he has plenty of ibexes to eat, but with sick alpacas under my care, I think I may need to be a little bit more wary of him. For now, though, it's free meat, so I take it. Albert heals and feeds our sick alpacas, and then finally carries the last of the perishables to the stockpile. I need more storage space, so we double our storage room. Right now, I'm not all that concerned about what goes where, just that it's all inside and together. We're not planting the rice. Bad seasonal temperature. I guess it's officially winter now. I set up a heelroot spot anyway, so Albert will plant it as soon as it's warm enough. In the meantime, I start planning the more permanent settlement. First, I need our freezer and food prep area. I want it close to the river to have easy access to power when we finally get water power. As Albert starts on that room, we get a visitor. A slaver. Luckily, they're selling and not taking for themselves. Albert, with an entire 3 points in social, is our chief negotiator, so I send him out to talk. But as expected, we really don't want anything they have, at least nothing we can afford. I make the eventual freezer our food, medicine, and drug stockpile. And I place the electric stove and butcher table, and make a room for the butcher table so we're not butchering animals in the same room where we cook our food. I set up a zone for dead animals. I don't think I said to not allow rotten food, so I'd better check that in my next episode. I set up my outdoor stockpile to hold things that won't deteriorate, chunks and bricks and whatnot. And I set up our solar and wind power, which we'll have to do for electricity until we know how to make water wheels. Yes, we know how to make solar panels, but don't know how to make water wheels. One other good thing about this map, there are a lot of steel and component deposits littered in the area. I queue up some mining jobs so we can get things built. That whole block there should be all steel. Ooh, a raid. Another single guy all by himself with a club. He's preparing for his attack by standing around doing nothing, so this time I use my time actually preparing for him. I figure he'll come over that bridge, so I build Albert and Hermione a small panic room that you can see the bridge from. Albert decides to mine first, which is exactly the wrong priority right now, so I knock his mining down so he'll cut down some trees and build the panic room. The guy attacks, and Albert left some wood in the door, leaving it open, so I force him to haul it just in case. Then we take our positions and wait for the inevitable. Hermione does land a shot with her bow, and the 2 traps do the rest of the work. I realize I need a body dumping ground, so I set it up a bit away from the base. Albert wants to name our new home. River Run. Sounds good. Hermione's gutworms are eating through more than the food. They're also eating through our good medicine, so I knock her down to herbal for now. And with the distractions out of the way, Albert can get back to that mining he so wanted to do. We got a caravan request during all the excitement, and I finally get a chance to check it out. They want 420 blue fur. While I would love that leg and the flak vest, it doesn't seem all that likely right now. While we're waiting for enough steel and components to get power up, I start planning the dining room. Cooking is very efficient right now as we're transitioning to the new kitchen. To alleviate that a bit, I move the campfire closer to the eventual freezer. Ooh, a mad ibex. Now that's a bit more like it. No more monkeys and tortoises for us. And this one's right in our backyard. I run Albert and Hermione into the panic room, but it appears it's not needed. Okay, why was that easier than the tortoise? Albert finishes the stove, and I get a bit overzealous and cancel the campfire build order. However, without power, we can't actually use the stove, so I then have to queue it all back up. Meanwhile, Hermione is still cooking inefficiently. She's running back and forth with meals and meat. Albert goes back to mining steel, so we should have power soon, and Hermione starts planting crops. It's 7 days early, but hey, I'm not going to look an early spring in the mouth. If early springs have mouths. But as this odd pair settles in for the night, I'm going to end the episode here. I hope you enjoyed watching this. I definitely enjoyed playing it. I'm HMV and I will, as always, talk at you later.